Its name is the USS Hornet, and it was first commissioned in 1943. During World War II, this aircraft carrier saw a lot of action in the Pacific, shooting down more enemy aircraft than any other ship. In 1969, the Hornet retrieved the Apollo 11 space capsule from the first man on the moon mission. Today, it's a national historic landmark, a major tourist attraction, and home to what's believed to be a skeleton crew of ghosts. Ironically, when it was in active service, the Hornet was nicknamed the Gray Ghost. Alan McKean is director of museum exhibits on the Hornet.
Considering some of the sightings and some of the apparitions that allegedly have occurred on the Hornet, maybe that's very appropriate.
Today, when visitors step aboard this 20-story, 40,000-ton floating airstrip, they may see a lot more than just gray steel, refurbished jets, and a high-speed aircraft elevator.
There was one family that came down to the admissions who had been in the area we're in now, which is the forecastle, and they had heard voices, and all four of them had said they had heard the same thing, and I believed them.
Hearing disembodied voices can be frightening, but some people have seen ghosts in full uniform. Parapsychologist Lloyd Auerbach has been investigating the ghostly sailors of the USS Hornet for years.
Most people are actually seeing full-bodied apparitions. They're seeing full-figured, three-dimensional people, sailors, officers from the World War II era.
Alan McKean is on the fence about believing in ghosts, even though he had an encounter he can't explain away. According to Alan, it happened on the Admiral's Bridge, just below the pilot house. During World War II, this is where all the strategic battle decisions were made.
I was literally standing right here where I am now, and I just happened to look over my shoulder over here through that doorway over there, and I saw a gentleman with a khaki uniform on with long sleeves and an overseas hat on who looked over his left shoulder at me and went down the ladder. I excused myself, went down the ladder and called after him. Didn't hear anything. I went down the ladder, didn't see anything, and went down the next ladder, looked on at the flight deck and called, didn't see anybody down there.
How does Alan explain the sighting?
Was it a ghost? I don't know. Was it an apparition? I don't know. But what I saw, I definitely saw, and he was very real.
Alan won't say for certain that the officer he saw was a ghost. Others on the USS Hornet make no bones about their beliefs.
Old ships, like old houses, old battlefields, they have memories that are there imprinted in that place forever. Whether you're seeing spirits, you're seeing memories, it's there.
Keith Ledoux runs an overnight program on the Hornet for children. Included in the evening entertainment is a ghost story hour. What kids don't know is that the ghostly tales Keith tells really happened. According to Keith, the forward section of the ship is one of the most active areas for ghosts. Just a few years ago, he was in this area with a co-worker. Keith is convinced that someone or something was watching him.
Turned around and looked over towards this catwalk area here, and leaning against one of the railings up there was a man in a sailor suit, work blues, leaning against the railings, giving me a strange look. So I turned around to take my mask off to get my buddy, and we turned back around and the person was gone.
That wasn't the last time Keith says he saw a ghost in this part of the ship. A week later, that same sailor reportedly brought along his commanding officer.
They're basically going about their duty. As they did in life, they do in death.
Keith is also convinced that someone walked through wet paint without leaving footprints. It happened during the Navy's annual Fleet Week. Keith was staying overnight with other volunteers to get the boat in ship shape.
The first day we were here, we had painted that area where the bell is, that's the quarterdeck. Next to the bell is the captain's ladder. Now up at the top of the captain's ladder is a door. That was locked. There was a chain and a padlock on it. To get up that ladder, you'd have to walk through that area we painted. Now that night around midnight, we heard something crashing onto the deck.
Keith and his friends went to investigate. The sounds were coming from the quarterdeck, just a few steps away from the ship's gift shop and visitor gangway. What or who could it have been?
Former commanding officer, you got me, but something we heard and there was no footprints.
Bob Fowler is a volunteer who sleeps on board the Hornet 3 nights a week. He took us to the junior officer's berthing area to tell us his ghost story.
My first night that I spent aboard the ship was right in this rack right here. And about an hour into sleeping, I felt a tugging at my feet, and my feet were being pulled. And I wasn't sure whether I was asleep or not or what it was. And there I got up, looked around. There was nobody here, no strings, no nothing.
Has Bob slept in that bunk since then?
I slept 2 bunks down here. I have a stateroom on the other side of the hallway that I sleep in 3 nights a week with a liveaboard program, but I won't sleep in that bunk.
For some weird reason, ghosts have frequently been reported in restrooms, and the USS Hornet is no exception. Inside this ladies' room, some women say they've heard the disconcerting sound of male voices.
A lot of the women have reported hearing voices in here, male voices. They've experienced feeling a presence, mainly over by the mirrors and the sinks. And what's interesting is that the guys seem to be pretty respectful of the stalls themselves. They don't go in there, they don't try to peek over, but they're still pretty mischievous out here amongst the mirrors and the sinks. This is where people really feel like they're being watched.
Perhaps tourists aboard the Hornet aren't the only ones sightseeing. The ship's ghostly crew has been reported in every bathroom, bridge, or bunk. But before you decide these stories of phantoms are all out to sea, back on land, this next tour guide will introduce you to the ghost of a voodoo queen who still has a lot to crow about.
Are so resilient. But lost souls don't just appear in museums. There are spirits that make their homes in less touristy areas. In fact, climb up San Francisco's most exclusive hill, and you'll encounter some of the city's highest class haunts.
Nighttime on Nob Hill is open season for ghost hunts. All you need to do is find the right guide. Every night, master storyteller Jim Fastbinder takes visitors on San Francisco's ghost tour.
It doesn't matter whether you believe or disbelieve in spirits, and I don't go around trying to change people's minds. I just let them experience what's here and make up their own minds.
Fastbinder's first stop is the Queen Anne Hotel, built in 1890 by a famous San Franciscan named James Fair as a finishing academy for girls. Today it's a luxury bed and breakfast, but many claim the old school's head mistress, Miss Mary Lake, haunts the building. When Jim first decided to start his walking tour from the Queen Anne Hotel, he hadn't heard about any ghosts.
I was greeted by the concierge with, "Oh, you're here to investigate the haunting?"
Apparently, a guest staying on the 4th floor had just been spooked. Over the years, several guests have reported ghostly visitations.
People have seen a misty shape, and they describe this as being a woman. And it doesn't fill them with fear or dread. It fills them with comfort.
The weirdest experience to date was reported by a businessman staying in room 410.
He came in one night very, very late. He was very tired and very cold, but he just walked over to the bed, fell down, and fell asleep. He woke up and found a blanket over him, and he knows for sure he didn't get up and get that blanket. Not only that, it was tucked in.
100 years ago, this suite was Mary Lake's office. Could it be she's still in the business of comforting people? Isolated incident? Not in your life.
A few weeks ago, almost by accident, I ran into the manager of this place who worked here over 10 years ago. And he told me that on his watch, there were 2 very similar occurrences where someone staying in 410 would somehow fall asleep and then wake up with a blanket over them that they didn't get.
There's one more story that isn't part of Jim's ghost tour.
We had a regular guest who would stay here quite often, and he placed his shaving kit on the sink, and he heard things fall.
It looked as if someone was sweeping his things off the bathroom sink with their hand. Only, there was no human hand in sight. Was this Mary's way of teaching him to keep his room free and clear of clutter? Or was she trying to have some fun with the clientele? We may never know, but one thing's for sure. A few are convinced that the ghost of Miss Mary Lake isn't ready to retire just yet. Just half a block from the Queen Anne Hotel is the next stop on the Nob Hill Ghost Tour. In the mid-1800s, a black woman named Mary Ellen Pleasant built her home and earned her fortune here. Mary Ellen Pleasant was no lightweight when it came to living. By the time she was 30, she'd been a slave in Georgia, a rich widow in Boston, and a voodoo priestess in New Orleans. Wealthy and wise, she arrived in San Francisco in 1852. She bought saloons, bordellos, and boarding houses. And in a gold rush town where men outnumbered women 6-1, her boarding houses were always filled with rich, hungry, single men. It's said that Mary Ellen befriended young women who had lost their reputations. Her friendship had a price. These women became her spies, her ticket to wealth and power.
You know, she made a ton of money, and in this day and age, we'd call it insider trading. But back then, no one knew. They just knew she was a great cook.
Toward the end of her life, Mary Ellen was accused of murdering her business partner and alleged lover, Thomas Bell. She was acquitted, but the case ruined her. When she died, Mary Ellen Pleasant didn't have a penny to her name. Some say her restless ghost wanders among the eucalyptus trees, planted more than 100 years ago. According to Jim Fassbinder, she's taken a keen interest in his ghost tour.
One particular night, a woman was helping me tell my stories by making jokes about Mary Ellen Pleasant. She was standing alongside of me and then fell over. No one was within 12 feet of her, but it felt to her like someone had come and pushed her.
It wasn't the first time the forceful spirit reached out to the living. Joanna Karlinski, owner and pastry chef of the Meeting House restaurant, says she was attacked by Mary Ellen's spirit. Coincidentally, she had just finished reading about Pleasant's life.
Well, I get to the end of the book and realize that in the last chapter, they're discussing what happened to Mary Ellen Pleasant. They said that the crows that lived in the trees were haunted by her spirit. And that's the old voodoo thing. They used to call her the voodoo queen of San Francisco. Well, I read that and laughed very hard and finished the book and said, that's very funny.
The very next day, Mary Ellen was waiting for her.
And out of nowhere, two crows started squawking, came flying down and tried to pick me up and take me away. And I laughed when I realized that I had just been saying, oh, this is so not true. These are such silly little ghost stories.
To this day, Joanna is convinced that Mary Ellen haunts the eucalyptus grove, less than half a block from her restaurant. On a different block, there's a ghostly tale visitors to San Francisco will never encounter. It's off-limits to tourists, but a private tour of the Atherton House is exactly where we're going. Built in 1891 as a single-family dwelling, the house has since been divided into apartments. Kim McLennan and her husband now own the building. They've lived there for 20 years. Before buying the house, the McLennans received a standard real estate disclosure. Typically, these forms tell you what's wrong with the house so you can negotiate on price. This form was anything but typical.
The former owner presented my husband and I with an official disclosure that the house was haunted. That's how we found out.
That didn't stop the McLennans from buying the house. After she moved in with her family, Kim found out just what the word haunted meant.
And I was playing and heard this voice say, "Stop that." And I turned and looked around and tried to figure out where the voice was coming from. We played again, same voice, louder this time. "Stop that." And I looked at my son and I said, "Did you hear that? Did you hear anything?" And he said, "No." I shut the piano, walked out of the bar, and didn't come back for 4 months.
Is it possible that a ghost from the mansion's history is haunting the Atherton House? The house was built by a rich widow from Chile. Her son George had a reputation for being lazy. His principal pursuit, drinking whiskey. George married a novelist named Gertrude. She got a kick out of shocking San Franciscan socialites with her racy novels and tight-fitting dresses. They fought constantly. Their final battle took place on the dance floor of the Atherton mansion. Today, many believe that several spirits haunt this house. Chances are one of them is Gertrude. Over the years, tenants have reported mysterious knocks, rushing winds, filmy apparitions. And even though Kim is dead sure her home is haunted, she's not alarmed.
I feel okay about it, and that I accept it as being a kind-hearted spirit, not something that feels dangerous.
But not every restless spirit will leave you in peace. Sometimes you must build to appease their eternal anger. A discussion about ghosts in San Francisco wouldn't be complete without a drive due south to a 160-room mansion that was reportedly designed and built for ghosts.
The Winchester Mystery House is an interesting place because it absolutely looks like it ought to be haunted. If nothing else, you're going to have a blast just walking through the house, no question, whether you encounter a ghost or not.
And although many visitors say they come to see the ghosts, they are surprised by the estate's architecture that sometimes verges on the bizarre. For some mysterious reason, the number 13 is everywhere. 13 palm trees, 13 window panes, 13 ceiling panels, 13 bathrooms. The mansion is one enormous maze. Miles of twisting hallways, dozens of secret passageways, doors that open to blank walls and sheer drops that can send an unsuspecting visitor down 3 stories to their death. For more than 100 years, weird stories have been circulating about eerie events at the Winchester House. The sound of disembodied footsteps, doors and windows that open and close by themselves. Breezy curtains blowing in rooms where the windows are shut tight. It's been said that ghosts haunt the estate day and night.
I saw a figure of a man, just about half of him from his waist up. He was wearing overalls, and I was quite shocked to see this man because I was totally expecting Sarah Winchester.
If this ghost really does exist, why hasn't it moved on and out of the Winchester house? To answer that question, we need to travel back in time to the Winchester Arms Company in New Haven, Connecticut. In 1862, a young woman named Sarah Lockwood Pardee married multimillionaire William Winchester. He was an excellent catch, the son and sole heir to the Winchester rifle fortune, the gun that won the West. 2 tragedies changed the course of Sarah's life. She lost her infant daughter to a rare disease, and her husband to tuberculosis. Desperate and lonely, Sarah searched out a medium who could talk to the dead. Expecting to hear from her deceased husband, Sarah soon found out that there were other spirits just dying to speak to her.
The spirit medium warned her that the spirits of the people killed by the Winchester rifles would potentially take out their revenge on her.
The spirits came from all walks of life. American Indians, Civil War soldiers, Western outlaws, and innocent bystanders. And they were all hell-bent on haunting Sarah to an early death. The ghosts ordered Sarah to build a great house for them. As long as the construction on this house never stopped, the spirits would let Sarah live, sparing her from the Winchester curse. In 1884, fearing for her life, Sarah bought an 8-room farmhouse just south of San Francisco. She hired a crew of carpenters to work around the clock, 7 days a week. It was an expensive undertaking, but Sarah had plenty of cash. She was earning at least $1,000 a day from Winchester rifle royalties alone. By the turn of the century, Sarah's modest farmhouse was a 7-story mansion with hundreds of rooms. No wonder people say it's easy to get lost at the Winchester Mystery House. But never fear, there are tour guides on hand to show visitors the way. The seance room in the center of the house is a favorite destination.
We do know that Sarah had seances in the house itself. We do know that these were a fairly common situation, and that Sarah was terrified of ghosts herself, which is why she tried to connect or try to talk to ghosts constantly.
To confuse unfriendly spirits that she believed were out to kill her, Sarah took different routes to this room each night on the stroke of 12. It was in this room that the ever-changing blueprints for the Winchester mansion were drawn up. Using a planchette board and a pencil, Sarah would let the spirits do the talking.
And the spirits would speak to her, and they would tell her things to do in the house, what kind of woods to put in what room, what kind of designs to have in a window. And she would sit there and she would draw them and design them.
It may have been Sarah's hand that drew the plans, but the ghosts allegedly pointed the way. Despite Sarah's obsessive determination to appease the ghosts, she died on September 5th, 1922. When her carpenters heard the news, they abruptly stopped all work. You can still see the half-driven nails throughout the mansion. Many believe that Sarah's spirit still roams the hallways of the Winchester house.
Sarah is typically seen in the hallways in the house, within the house herself. And it's pretty clearly, apparently, Sarah Winchester. She was a tiny woman. If you go through the house, you'll see this tiny little bed, and she even built stairs that were not quite as high as other stairs, so she could get around the house herself.
But according to some witnesses, there are others who have made the Winchester Mystery House their eternal wandering place. One witness saw a ghost by the name of Clyde.
I remember the very first time that I saw Clyde. I was asked to do a seance here at the Winchester Mystery House, and we were expecting Sarah Winchester to appear, but instead, this gentleman in overalls appeared before me, and he told me that he was the caretaker.
The seance took place in front of a camera crew, hoping to capture the ghost on tape.
Well, we waited, and we waited, and we waited, maybe 15 minutes, and finally the director said, "All right, cut, turn the cameras off, nothing is happening." As soon as they turned the cameras off, whoosh, all of a sudden this cold air comes streaming down the middle of the table, blows out the candles that are on the table, and everybody screams, of course. And I said, well, there he is.
Annette Martin isn't the only one who has seen ghosts at the Winchester house. John Stubert, a painter at the mansion for 20 years, has his own chilling tales to tell.
I was working up on a lot of patching a hole up in the wall, and I felt a tug on my collar, and I felt another one, and then I felt a stronger one, and it almost pulled me back off the ladder. And I looked behind me, and there was nobody there. There was nothing above me that I could hook my collar on, and so I jumped off the ladder.
In John's mind, there was only one thing he could do: get out of there, fast.
It gave me chills. Like I said, I came down, they said that I was pale from fright.
Could ghosts be out to get you at the Winchester Mystery House? Or did Sarah Winchester just have a thing for spirits?
One would have to think that Sarah Winchester was obsessed with ghosts and spirits, because there's no other explanation for why this woman would build this house continuously and spend all that money, unless she somehow was seeing into the future and that there was a need in San Jose for a tourist attraction.
Hungry for more? Then make a reservation at this next San Francisco haunt, a restaurant that embraces its sordid past and ghostly present.
Stay close.
Francisco, on the edge of a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean, is a restaurant with 3 important ingredients: location, location, location. Stopping by the Moss Beach Distillery for lunch or dinner is a no-brainer for tourists and locals alike. It's known for its excellent food, great beer, magnificent views, and its very own ghost they call the Blue Lady.
There have been doors that have been locked that have opened by themselves. Lamps have swung above the bar and above the hostess station, and people have seen the apparition, heard her voice calling their names. All very playful and all a lot of fun.
It's been said that the Blue Lady likes to play tricks on employees and diners.
I'll get goosebumps and chills walking around the restaurant at different parts of the day.
I have to admit, when I'm here alone at night, like when I come up the stairs after doing my checkout, I kind of get freaked out.
Is there something about the distillery's past that invites these hauntings? The original restaurant was called Frank's Roadhouse and was built in 1927 by a man named Frank Torres. During the Prohibition era, it was the speakeasy for anyone who felt the need for some illegal booze.
Frank's place was kind of a highlight of the coast, and people would come as far away as supposedly from Hollywood and from well north of San Francisco.
It was also the principal drop-off point for whiskey runners and bootleggers. Legend has it that a piano player working at the restaurant had an illicit affair with a beautiful woman who worked at a nearby hotel. Unfortunately for her, she was also the wife of a heavy-drinking bootlegger with a hot temper. Late one night, the husband showed up at the bar and saw the two lovers kissing. The piano player made a hasty retreat when he saw the bootlegger pull out a knife. The beautiful wife was not so lucky.
The next morning, the woman was dead. She was found on the beach, stabbed. Shortly after that, the woman started being seen with the blue dress, with blood and what looked like knife slits on her dress.
Since that time, many claim they've seen and heard the Blue Lady throughout the restaurant. In fact, this ghost has become so popular that patrons come from far and wide to catch a glimpse of her. The restaurant's owner, John Barber, wanted her to show up at every meal.
John came to me and said, you know, you're the ghost expert. Can you make her play with people a little bit more?
Thanks to secret devices hidden throughout the restaurant, the Blue Lady has gone high-tech. Tucked away in the back office is a central computer system that controls all these special ghost effects.
We thought about doing recreations, special effects that would recreate some of the things that people have reported. And so what we've done is we've got several other lamps, other than the one that has been reported moving, actually swinging several times each hour by themselves.
The ladies' room at the distillery is also rigged, but people have reported feeling a ghost there. Jan Mucklestone Fisher is a former marketing consultant for the restaurant.
Anytime I went down to the ladies' room, you just got a really creepy feeling. It was just a sense, a presence of something watching you. And it was just always kind of cold, and you just kind of wanted to get out of there.
Today, that something is a computer-enhanced ghost.
In the ladies' room, it had been reported a number of years ago that women used to see the woman's face in the mirror. So what we have is a separate mirror where the face of a woman does appear in the mirror. And at the same time, people might feel a little cold chill because we have a blast of air coming down at the same thing.
Is the Blue Lady merely special effects and clever marketing, or is there really a ghost? Executive chef and general manager Gregory Feddersen says he has stories to prove the Moss Beach Distillery is haunted. During the dinner rush one night, an employee went to get wine bottles from the stockroom. The door usually opens easily. That night, it wouldn't budge.
I'd like to show you where it happened. Here's the door. It opens just like so. And he couldn't get into it. This is the only way in. There was no way for anybody to stack the wine behind this door and get out of the room. When we finally were able to get in, there was nobody in the room. And what could cause that? A ghost would cause that. It's the only thing that could happen.
There was no other explanation other than something, I believe, supernatural. There was no window, there was no crawl space, there's no opening. There was no explanation.
No one at the restaurant can explain the floating checkbook incident either, but they love to tell the story.
The former owner was down doing the books, and all of a sudden the checkbook starts to rise and starts floating across the office.
Was it a ghost? Or had the former owner spent too much time alone with the books?
She ran the business for 20 years, and, there was no other reports of her being crazy, so I believe it.
Other scenes of ghostly activity in the restaurant rate a 10 on the fear scale. Like the time Gregory says a ghost rushed through his body. It all started when he snapped photos of the main dining room.
When I took the picture, I got like a double flash on the camera. The second flash was softer. It wasn't mechanical, but it was instantaneously right after the first flash. And I looked down at the film that was developed, and the first shot that I took had these three white ghostly style images in the shot.
As if the ghost photo wasn't weird enough, just afterward, Gregory felt something pass through his body.
All of a sudden, it was just like a breeze going through me. I get this complete body chill, and it just went right through me 3 distinct times, and I immediately started thinking what I had to do to get out of the restaurant. It was interesting, to say the least.
According to waitress Virginia Ham, the Blue Lady is the real deal.
I think she's trying to show herself to me because I always say I don't believe in her. And so, the lights are always, turned off over my head and leave me in the dark. And that's happened like 4 or 5 times.
Virginia's own ghost story occurred in the middle of the day when she was setting up for lunch.
The tables were all set with the silverware and the napkins and the bread plates. And on one table, I noticed a spoon is vibrating really fast. And I thought, oh, well, maybe it's a machine, like, from downstairs, vibrating the floor. But it would be like a few select things on each table. And as I noticed, there were like a few napkins, one here, one there, a spoon over there. It was just very random and weird. And we called a bunch of people around. It was funny. We were watching it for a while. But that was weird, because there's no vibration in the floor.
Vibrating spoons, swinging lamps, floating checkbooks. It kind of makes you wonder, why would a ghost haunt the Moss Beach Distillery?
She has been there because she likes the activity, because she likes the people, because she has fond memories, and because she's apparently waiting for her boyfriend to show up and take her away. My guess is she's just having too much of a good old time at the restaurant herself.
It's not easy to prove the existence of ghosts, but that doesn't stop the Moss Beach Distillery and other tourist spots around San Francisco from advertising their haunting tales. In fact, they welcome their ghosts and the business they bring in with open arms.
Cashing in on a haunting may seem like good business sense, but as we've seen, uninvited guests bring a price all their own, and most visitors to San Francisco wouldn't want to get stuck picking up that tab.
Ghosts.